I believe most of you guys have already heard about the Utah grief author murder case. I mean, it's all over the place after the final verdict that was done in March 2026. Killer wife married him on the exact day she signed the prenup, which would one day put her in prison for killing him. June 15th, 2013, wedding day. Same day, a premarital agreement. You know, a typical prenup agreement. But one clause buried inside it says that if Eric Richins died while they were still married, his half of the family stonemasonry business would transfer directly to her. 9 years later, at 3:21 a.m. in the morning, Kouri Richins called 911. Her voice on that recording is calm, almost too calm.
911, what's the address of the emergency? Yes, I'm not breathing. She's cold. Okay, what's the address?
I don't know. I was sleeping in with my kids. I just came in the bed, did our bed, and I turned over, and he's just cold. He's just cold.
She tells the dispatcher her husband isn't breathing. She says he's cold. She didn't try very hard. And in March of 2026, a Utah jury learned that she never planned to. This is the full story. The marriage, the money, the mistress, the manuscript, and the letter that cracked the whole thing open. I've spent weeks in these court filings, and I'm going to walk you through every piece of it in order, including the parts that never made it into a single news segment. And along the way, I'm going to tell you honestly what I think, because after reading thousands of pages on this case, I don't think I can stay neutral anymore. So let's get into it. Kouri Darden and Eric Richins got married on June 15th, 2013 in Utah. Eric wasn't new to marriage. He'd been divorced once before, and according to court filings, that divorce had been very expensive. So when his mother pushed for a premarital agreement, it wasn't paranoia. It was a man who'd already learned a hard lesson once. I would have suggested the same. Unfortunately, the agreement protected Eric's 50% stake in his business, C&E Stone Masonry, as his sole separate property. Kouri would have no claim to it in a divorce. None. But the document contained one exception, and it's the exception that the entire case eventually hung on. If Eric died while they were still legally married, his ownership interest would transfer to her outright. I want to sit with that for a second, because I think people skim past it. A prenup is supposed to be the thing that protects you if a marriage ends badly. This one did something different. It quietly created a scenario where Kouri was worth more to herself as a widow than as a divorced woman. Divorce, she gets nothing from the business. Widowhood, she gets it all. I'm not saying a prenup causes murder. Plenty of people sign documents like this and never act on them. But when you already know how this story ends, that clause reads less like boilerplate and more like the first domino. Interestingly, she opened 4 life insurance policies upon Eric's death without his knowledge. The aggregate death benefit is nearly $2 million. That is $500,000 each. Fast forward almost a decade. By 2021 and early 2022, the picture prosecutors would later paint is a marriage that looked fine from the outside and was falling apart on the inside. Kouri was running a house flipping business. According to the state's own financial breakdown, that business was drowning, close to $2 million in debt. She was allegedly siphoning money out of Eric's accounts to cover it. When Eric confronted her, she said she would return it, which, obviously, she didn't. She was also, according to text messages that you can see on the screen, entered into evidence, having an affair with this man. On February 15th, 2022, that's Valentine's Day, she texted the man prosecutors say she was seeing, "If I was divorced right now and asked you to marry me tomorrow, would you?" And in another message, "I am in love with someone who is not my husband." That same weekend, prosecutors allege, is when Eric first got sick under suspicious circumstances. He survived it. Nobody called it attempted murder at the time. It just looked like he'd caught something. Here's a question a lot of us ask when we read this timeline, and it's one I don't have a clean answer for. Why didn't he leave right after that? According to his sisters, part of it was fear. Fear of what custody of the boys would look like if Kouri had them unsupervised more often, not less. It's a heartbreaking piece of logic. The instinct to protect your kids by staying close to danger instead of walking away from it. And there's something else Eric did around this time that Kouri, as far as the record shows, never knew about. He quietly created a living trust. He revoked her power of attorney. He was already trying to protect himself financially in his own quiet way without a confrontation. I think that detail says more than almost anything else in this case. A man doesn't rewrite his estate documents behind his wife's back because things are going well. Now here's a piece of evidence that I don't think got nearly enough attention outside the courtroom, and it might be the single most damning document in the entire case. Eric and his business partner, Kouri Richins, each held a $2 million life insurance policy on one another. Standard practice for two men who co-owned a company, meant to fund a buy-sell agreement if one of them died. Nothing unusual about that.
Did you know Eric Richins?
I did.
How?
Eric was a really good friend of mine and also business partner.
He testified receiving a phone call from Eric on Valentine's Day 2022, immediately after Eric ate the poisoned sandwich Kouri left for him. Wright stated that Eric's voice was trembling, and there was a profound sense of urgency. He also said that after years of working with Eric, he is confident that he had never seen Eric use illicit drugs, over-the-counter abuse, or prescription opioids, even when dealing with severe back pain.
Other than allergy medication, have you ever seen Eric use over-the-counter drugs?
No.
Have you ever seen Eric use prescription drugs?
No.
Have you ever seen Eric use illicit drugs?
I have never seen him use illicit drugs.
One of the highlights of his testimony was that he confirmed a major financial link to Kouri's real estate business. He testified that C&E Masonry had actually provided a $200,000 loan to Kouri's company in 2020 to help her flip a property.
Sir, do you recall receiving a phone call from Eric at approximately 2 p.m. on Valentine's Day 2022?
Yes.
Without saying what Eric said to you, why is it you remember that phone call?
The fear in his voice, the urgency of the situation, the seriousness of what was going on.
Had you ever heard Eric sound like that before?
The only other times I heard that urgency and that fear when he called me telling me that his mother had passed away in the hospital.
But on January 1st, 2022, barely 2 months before Eric died, the insurance company's own financial advisor, a man named Brian Freckleton, got an alert. Someone had logged into Eric's account and changed the beneficiary on Kouri Richins' policy, changed it to Kouri Richins, and then, within a few minutes, that beneficiary designation bounced back and forth 4 separate times. The insurance company's internal records showed Kouri's own email address was the one logged in and making the changes.
So on January 1st of 2022, did you receive an alert?
I did.
Okay. Can you tell us what the alert was to you?
Yes, it was an alert that the policies on Eric and Kouri, the beneficiary had been attempted to be changed.
When Freckleton called Eric to flag it, because this is exactly the kind of thing a financial advisor is supposed to catch, Eric told him to let it go. "Don't worry about it," he said.
And so what did you do about that?
Well, I called both Kouri and Eric.
Who had been changed to who?
Yeah, the beneficiary had been changed to Kouri Richins.
From?
Well, in this case, it was from Eric.
Okay.
I keep coming back to this moment. A man is warned in plain language that his wife appears to be trying to redirect a $2 million policy that isn't even legally hers to touch. And he tells the one person positioned to stop it, "Don't worry about it." Was that trust? Denial? Exhaustion? I don't think we'll ever fully know what was going through his head. But 6 weeks later, he was dead. So this is what the record tells us about that night, pieced together from search warrants, the 911 call, and body cam footage. Kouri says the two of them were celebrating. She just closed on a new flip property, and she made Eric a Moscow mule to toast it.
What's your first name? So what happened today? What time did you see him when he was alert?
We had a drink together at 9 to celebrate something at work tomorrow.
Okay.
We went to bed. I went to bed with my kids. He went to bed in our bed.
What time did you guys go to bed?
9:30.
9:30?
Sometime after that, according to her account, she went to sleep in one of her son's rooms, not the master bedroom. She says she woke up, went to check on Eric, and found him unresponsive and cold.
And what alerted you to him today, right now?
When I just woke up, I always, when I sleep with my kids, I always wake up and I go back in my own bed. Mm-hmm. I just crawl over on his side.
And he was laying in bed? Okay.
He was on his back.
The 911 call comes in at 3:21 a.m. And I'll be honest with you, I've listened to that call more than once, and something about it has bothered nearly everyone who's heard it, myself included. She isn't screaming, she isn't panicking. She tells the dispatcher almost matter-of-factly, "I can't move him, and he's dead weight." Language a person uses about a body they've already accepted is gone, not language a person uses while desperately hoping their husband is still alive.
911, what's the address of the emergency? Yes, I'm not breathing. He's cold. Okay, what's the address? Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
I don't know. I was sleeping with my kids.
Okay, I can't understand you. I need you to take a deep breath. What's going on?
I don't know. I was sleeping in with my kids. I just came in the bed, in our bed, and I turned over, and he's cold. He's just cold.
Who's cold?
My husband. I turned the light off.
And he's not breathing? He's not breathing? I need you to confirm it for me. Is he not breathing?
No.
Okay, can you do CPR?
No, I don't know how.
You don't know. I'm going to tell you how to. Are you willing to do CPR?
Yeah.
Okay.
Prosecutors zeroed in on something even more specific: phone data. They allege Kouri first picked up her phone and unlocked it at 3:06 a.m., 15 minutes before she ever dialed 911. Her phone was unlocked 6 separate times in that window. First responders on scene noted that Eric appeared to have been dead for a while already, not minutes. What was happening in those 15 minutes? Nobody has ever given a satisfying answer. It's one of those gaps in the timeline that just sits there, unresolved, and I think it's fair to sit with the discomfort of that rather than pretend we know. When Deputy Nguyen's body cam captured the scene, Kouri is visibly distraught, answering questions while paramedics work on Eric in the background. She tells officers they'd had drinks earlier that night, that she went to sleep in her son's room, and that Eric might have taken a THC gummy.
Gummy before he goes to bed.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't seem like you did, though.
It's like a gummy, as in like a THC gummy?
Her mother, Lisa, is also on scene, and when an officer asks what happened, it's Lisa who answers first, quickly. "We don't know. We went to bed." Not Kouri's account. Lisa's, spoken for both of them, immediately, before anyone even asked her directly. I want to be careful here, because I'm not a prosecutor, and I can't prove intent from a body camera angle. But that detail, the mother stepping in with a rehearsed-sounding "we" before anyone had asked her anything, is one a lot of people who've watched this case closely keep coming back to. It's the kind of small thing that doesn't prove a conspiracy on its own, but it doesn't feel like nothing either. At that point, nobody at the scene knew what had actually killed Eric. There was no autopsy yet. Deputies on scene were speculating it might have been an aneurysm. They were wrong. The toxicology results would later show Eric Richins had 5 times the lethal dose of illicit fentanyl in his system, and something like 10 times the lethal dose still undigested in his gastric system, meaning it hadn't even fully absorbed into his body yet by the time he died. I mean, the major part of this story that I think is genuinely one of the most disturbing, and it has nothing to do with courtroom evidence. It happened in plain public view. In the year after Eric's death, Kouri gave interviews describing herself as a grieving widow. And then, in March of 2023, just over a year after her husband died of fentanyl poisoning, and roughly 2 months before her own arrest, she published a children's book. It was called Are You With Me? It was marketed as a tool to help kids cope with grief and loss.
I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year. Explaining to my kid, just because he's not present here with us physically, that doesn't mean his presence isn't here with us.
I'm not going to pretend I have a neutral reaction to that timeline. A woman prosecutors say poisoned her husband for money, spent the following year publicly performing grief, collecting sympathy, and monetizing a book about loss, while, according to the financial case against her, allegedly diverting money that included Social Security death benefits meant for her own children. If even half of what prosecutors alleged about her finances during this period is true, that's not grief. That's a business model built on top of a body. Funny part is, this is the review of the book before she was arrested. And this is the review of the book after she was arrested. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, investigators were quietly building a case. Family members, including people close to Eric, had already voiced suspicions almost immediately after his death. Search warrants show the investigation had started long before anyone in the public knew Kouri was a suspect. So, Kouri Richins was arrested on May 8, 2023, and charged with aggravated murder, a first-degree felony, along with 3 counts of possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute. As I go deeper into this case, I realize the murder charge was only the beginning. Investigators allege she profited from close to $2 million in life insurance policies on Eric. Policies, prosecutors say, he never even knew existed. On top of that came 26 additional felony charges, 5 counts of mortgage fraud, 7 counts of money laundering, communications fraud, 5 counts of forgery, 7 counts of issuing bad checks. The state ultimately decided not to seek the death penalty, a decision made, according to court filings, in careful consultation with Eric's father and sisters, who didn't want that path pursued. That reduced the aggravated murder charge to a non-capital first-degree felony, punishable by 25 years to life. We get to know everything when the state explains it plainly. Kouri's motive wasn't rage, and it wasn't an accident. It was money. It's always about money. Her house-flipping business was collapsing under debt. She needed cash, and Eric, alive, was worth far less to her than Eric, dead. The evidence prosecutors pointed to for premeditation is, frankly, well, chilling. Deleted search history recovered from her phone reportedly included searches like, what is a lethal dose of fentanyl? If someone is poisoned, what does it go down on the death certificate as? And, almost unbelievably, luxury prisons for the rich in America. That last one, if it's accurately reported, isn't just damning. It's a woman already mentally rehearsing what happens after she gets caught, before she'd even done the thing she'd get caught for. Everything she did was all part of her massive plan. Now we get to the piece of evidence that became the defining symbol of this entire case, and honestly, one of the strangest documents I've ever read about in a criminal trial. While Kouri was in jail awaiting trial, she was placed on a 30-day lockdown for possessing contraband. That contraband was a letter guards found in her cell. It became known publicly as the walk the dog letter, and prosecutors said it was an attempt at witness tampering, specifically instructions for how family members should testify, including guidance for her mother to convince her brother to tell investigators that Eric had secretly bought drugs from workers in Mexico. Kouri's explanation, captured on a recorded Jailhouse phone call with her brother, Ronnie Darden, was that the letter wasn't real instructions at all. She claimed it was a cherry-picked excerpt from a 65-page fictional manuscript she was writing, a mystery novel titled To Hell and Back, involving her and her deceased father traveling to Mexico, stumbling onto a human trafficking ring, and ending up in a Mexican prison. She insisted the police had ignored a disclaimer stating the events were fictional. I'll let you sit with that defense for a moment, because I had to sit with it myself. A woman facing a murder charge, in jail, writes a 65-page novel that happens to contain detailed coaching instructions for how her real family members should testify in her real murder trial. And her explanation is that it's fiction. Okay, hear me out. It got stranger. So, the state discovered that Kouri's own defense attorney, Sky Lazaro, had walked the manuscript out of the Summit County Jail inside an envelope specifically marked attorney privileged, which, if true, would mean using attorney-client privilege as a smuggling mechanism to move a document past the guards. And the reason the state argued that privilege didn't even apply anymore is almost, poetic. On a recorded jail call, Kouri herself said, in her own words, "Half the story is true."
Please proceed.
Obviously.
Who fucking cares?
I know. I'm just like so annoyed by that. Like I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Obviously, if
And
one
it's
party's
not like-
gonna do it, the other party's probably gonna do it to see what the fuck.
Right? And it's
Like common sense.
regarding your side of stuff, nothing came out of that. What came out of the other side?
Exactly.
An illegal transfer, everything.
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
A lot came out of that.
Yes, I just went in for a consultation. That was it.
Yep.
So why is that so bad? Am I misunderstanding something?
No, it's just something they're going to try to probably try to hold against you, for no fucking reason. Because
He did it first.
guess what? Yeah, he did it first, and not only did he do it first, he actually took action on it illegally.
Yes. All I did was, what the hell am I supposed to do? That was literally the conversation.
Yeah. Yep. So,
Which is my right to
that
do.
person's probably going to be right.
And
So that
it's-
person's probably going to be brought in,
Which is perfect, because you know what I told that person?
which is
I don't want to fill out the packet. I don't want absolutely anything. I want to walk away clean and advice me, no, that's not how this works. You have to fill this out about da-da-da-da. And I said, I don't want to. I don't want any of it.
yep.
That is what I told that lady. I said, I just want these done. And
Yeah,
she
so
argued
perfect.
with me. Forever. I took the packet, I threw it away. I'm like, no, I won't fill this out. Because I don't want to have
So-
everything.
I mean, right. So that's perfect and works in favor for you for everything.
Yep.
Nothing,
Yeah, I'm just like so fucking annoyed by it though. Like, quit portraying me to be this person.
Yeah.
Anything you're trying to say I did, Eric did. Like, so now they cancel each other out, you fucking idiot. Like,
Yeah.
protecting myself, like,
Yeah, I wouldn't get. I wouldn't get too worked up about it.
yeah, I'm not. But that just gave me an idea. I am going to ask if she can testify.
Well, that's not really going to matter because she could just get subpoenaed. And to be honest, if their attorneys don't do it, yeah, you're going to.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just annoyed. So I told Mom. I said,
Because they're going to try to paint this picture. So you're going to try to paint this picture and like, oh no, here she is. What did she ask about? What did you advise her? What did she say no to?
so yeah, I don't know.
They thought, like you said, they thought a lot about it, but guess what? So did he.
Exactly.
So,
You cannot claim something is pure fiction and simultaneously tell your brother that half of it actually happened. She'd broken her own defense with her own mouth on a recorded line she had to have known was being monitored. This single letter, one document, triggered a gag order fight, a defense motion accusing prosecutors of leaking it to a global media audience without attaching it to any formal motion, allegations of an illegal search of privileged jail mail, a motion for contempt sanctions against the state, and eventually, a full motion to dismiss the entire case for prosecutorial misconduct. the defense argued the state had effectively branded Kouri a witness tamperer in public before she'd even been formally charged with witness tampering, poisoning the jury pool before the trial had even started. None of it worked. The letter stayed in as evidence. And I think that's the right outcome, even setting aside how I feel about her guilt. Because if it comes out of your own pen, courts treat that as your own words, regardless of how prejudicial it is to your case. The trial ran from February through March of 2026, and it produced weeks of testimony that frankly could fill a documentary on its own. But I know you are busy folks, so I'm going to hit the pieces that mattered most. Before the trial even started, Judge Richard Mrazek faced a huge choice. He had to decide what the jury was allowed to hear. A key witness named Ms. Lauber had talked to the police early on. During the trial, the defense team accidentally made a big mistake. They implied to the jury that she was lying and had just made up her story. By doing this, the defense opened a door for the state to bring in her old police statements. But the judge didn't just rush into a decision. He paused the trial. He ordered both sides to write up arguments on exactly when she might have had a reason to lie. It was a small, technical moment, but it shows how careful this judge was. He was patient and methodical, refusing to give either side an easy win.
Are you testifying pursuant to several grants of immunity today?
Yes.
You interviewed with investigators before you had immunity, in part to take accountability for your part in Eric's death.
Yes.
Was another part of the reason you spoke with investigators prior to a grant of immunity was that you hoped you would eventually get some benefits, some grant of immunity?
Yes.
Before you interviewed with, what drugs did you ask Susan Cole? What type of drug did you ask Susan Kohler for on Kouri Richins' behalf?
Just some kind of painkiller, an opiate.
So, again, Ms. Richins on the second time asked for the Michael Jackson drug, correct?
Correct.
And you told Ms. Whistler that you had to Google it, correct? Because you didn't know what it was.
Correct.
And that you discovered it was propofol, correct?
I don't recall if that's what I remember, but...
Well, you said yesterday that you discovered it was propofol.
Yes.
All right. And you can't buy propofol in the streets, correct?
I'm not sure.
To your knowledge, can you buy it on the streets?
No, I don't go around asking for it, no.
Okay, that's
not
fair.
Not that I recall, if you can or not.
And you say she asked me to get Michael Jackson stuff. Yes. Ms. Whistler says, okay, did you tell her what she was getting was fentanyl? And you said yes, and that's on the second transaction that took place in my driveway when she came to pick it up. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I just want to add this little information into this documentary. Now, let's get into some major testimonies. One of the more emotionally difficult threads involved a close friend, Chelsea, who testified that Kouri had taken money from her, reportedly her tip earnings, under false pretenses.
Did Kouri Richins explain to you anything about Eric Richins' death?
Oh, yeah.
What did she say?
Just that she went to bed with one of the boys and woke up, went back in the room, and realized Eric was cold and realized he wasn't breathing.
Did you wire $45,000 to Kouri Richins in 2 separate wires?
Yes.
And you understood that to be a down payment on the house that you were living in?
Yes.
Did you understand that Kouri was going to put that money towards a mortgage that was closing soon after you wired the money?
Yes. The house was mine.
Did you understand that that document, upon signing it, that needed to be recorded with Wasatch County?
Yes.
Was that document ever recorded with Wasatch County?
No. When she got arrested, I was informed that there was a loan taken out on my house that I didn't know about, or I didn't take it out.
Your Honor, hearsay.
You were evicted in September 24.
Mm-hmm.
Why were you evicted?
The new owners kicked me out.
Were there new owners because the mortgage was foreclosed on?
No.
Why were there new owners?
I don't know how it all works, but she gave the deed over to someone else and they owned the house.
The defense fought hard to keep this out, arguing it was irrelevant and unfairly prejudicial. The state's counterargument was that pecuniary gain is an aggravating factor under Utah law for aggravated murder, and this testimony went directly to proving how financially desperate Kouri actually was. Desperate enough to take money from one of her closest friends. The judge allowed it, and honestly, I think the state's argument holds up. This isn't about proving Kouri committed a separate financial crime against Chelsea. It's about proving the state of mind of a woman who felt so cornered by money that she'd betray people who loved her. Now the part of the trial that almost never makes it into headline coverage, but it might be the most scientifically important thread in the whole case. Investigators found trace amounts of fentanyl in the house during 2 separate searches, but the confirmatory lab testing couldn't confirm the earlier, presumptive positive results, so the judge ruled that specific evidence inadmissible. On its own, that sounds like a win for the defense. But listen to what came out during a sidebar on day 10, when the jury was sent out of the room. Some of the THC gummies from the house tested for what's called an indication of fentanyl, a result even weaker than a presumptive positive, so weak it doesn't even trigger a confirmatory test. The prosecution's argument was that this wasn't exculpatory at all. It was the opposite. Because Eric had no THC in his system that night, meaning he hadn't eaten any gummies to begin with, any fentanyl residue on gummies in the house wasn't evidence of an accidental contamination. It looked more like evidence of someone trying to manufacture a cover story after the fact, tampering with items in the house to make an overdose look accidental. And then, oh my God, police also found trace fentanyl inside one of Kouri's own jackets. The drug supplier, a woman referred to as Ms. Lauber, a former housekeeper, testified that she sold Kouri fentanyl before Eric's death. The defense attacked her credibility hard, pointing out she only implicated Kouri after investigators threatened her with prison time. That's a fair point to raise, and reasonable people can disagree on how much weight her testimony deserves. But it wasn't standing alone. Cell phone location data and text messages corroborated large parts of her account, including, prosecutors say, a text recovered after Eric's death in which Kouri asked if her supplier still had her hookup. That's not something an innocent widow asks. Maybe the most haunting part of this whole trial happened after the verdict. Judge Mrazek allowed the jury to ask questions about evidence that had been excluded, and what they learned floored a lot of courtroom observers. A man named Hayden Jeffs, who died before trial, had exchanged text messages with Kouri in which she directly asked him to sell her fentanyl and propofol, not in code, spelled out. But because Hayden was dead and couldn't be cross-examined, that evidence was ruled hearsay, and the jury convicted her without ever seeing it. Let's, again, sit for a while. The jury found her guilty on all counts using only the evidence they were legally allowed to hear, and there was more, arguably worse evidence, sitting in the file the entire time that never even reached them. The jury convicted Kouri Richins on all counts. On May 13, 2026, she was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole on the aggravated murder charge, with the maximum sentences on her other charges ordered to run consecutively.
Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict? Yes, we have. Would you please hand the verdict form to the deputy? Counsel, Ms. Richins, please stand. Count 1, aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree that the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 1 beyond a reasonable doubt. The homicide was committed for pecuniary gain, and the homicide was committed by means of the administration of any substance administered in a lethal amount, dosage, or quantity. Count 2, attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of attempted aggravated murder. We, the jury, unanimously agree the prosecution has proved the following circumstance or circumstances regarding count 2 beyond a reasonable doubt. The attempted homicide was committed for pecuniary gain. Count 3, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 4, insurance fraud. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of insurance fraud. Count 5, forgery. We, the jury, unanimously find that the defendant, Kouri Richins, is guilty of forgery.
Kouri Richins is running out of options. Judges have systematically shut down her defense team's desperate attempts to overturn her murder conviction. First, her lawyers tried to buy her a second chance. They accused the trial judge, Richard Mrazek, of being hostile and biased and demanded a brand new trial. But a reviewing judge completely threw out the request, ruling it was filed too late and lacked any real evidence of bias. The lifetime prison sentence stands. And the fallout isn't just emotional, it's financial. Kouri is heading back to court for a restitution hearing on August 28, 2026. Prosecutors are demanding she pay back more than $1.3 million. That is the exact amount of life insurance money she fraudulently tried to collect after poisoning her husband. On top of that, a civil court judge just stripped her of any claim to the family home, ruling that she committed a disqualifying homicide. Meanwhile, her legal team is fracturing. She still faces a second, separate criminal trial for dozens of counts of financial fraud and money laundering. But her defense lawyers are now trying to quit that case. Their reasoning? They aren't getting paid, and they don't have the expertise to defend white-collar crimes. Kouri's attorneys still plan to appeal the murder conviction to a higher court, but that process could take years. For now, the grief author remains exactly where the jury put her, behind bars with no way out. Anyway, I was thinking about it while I was working on this case. I think it deserves its own moment. Through all of this, Eric's 3 sons have had to live inside this story in real time. Early on, their accounts reportedly corroborated parts of Kouri's version of events. Years later, under professional psychological support and after everything that's come out, their statements shifted. I don't think that's suspicious on its own. It's what happens when traumatized children, isolated for years from one side of their family, are finally given space and support to process what they actually remember, rather than what they felt pressured to say to protect a parent they depended on. That's not coaching, that's healing. When you lay the whole timeline out, the prenup signed on the wedding day, the beneficiary switched and switched back 4 times in one sitting, the searches for lethal doses in luxury prisons, the 15 minutes before a 911 call, the letter smuggled out in an envelope marked privileged, and a defense that finally cracked under the weight of her own recorded words. It stops looking like a series of unfortunate coincidences. It starts looking like a plan that unraveled one document at a time. I don't think Kouri Richins ever expected any of this to become public. I think she expected grief to be the perfect disguise, one nobody questions, one that comes with built-in sympathy. For a while, it worked. She got the book deal, the interviews, the widow narrative. What she didn't plan for was a financial advisor who made one phone call, an insurance company that kept a timestamp log, and a letter she couldn't stop herself from writing. If this case has taught me anything, it's that the truth doesn't need to be loud to survive. It just needs someone willing to read every page. This case is definitely devastating, but this is not the only case I have covered before. You should check out this video next. That's on your screen now. Watch it. I know you will like it. Cheers!